Hey, do you remember this personal memory from when I was little? What if green hair grows on my chest?
Hey man, I dig it. I dig it. I'm with you. I'm not trying to dislocate another shoulder in the deep archives of over contemplating literature.
Coffee is just the new slang for doing it. You want some coffee? Wink.
What's up, baby? Trying to get some coffee?
Hello and welcome everyone to installment 12 of the Narrative Nerds. I'm here, of course, with Carter Petrie. What up, Carter?
What's going on, people? We got a good episode here for you today. Shane, you ready for this?
Oh, absolutely. I was born ready for this. Today we're going to be talking all about poetry and song lyrics and all that kind of good stuff. Essentially we're getting down to the very essence of like the concept of like a deliverable in literature.
Mm.
A poem is kind of just a concentrated idea that you're delivering in very few words. So we thought it would be perfect topic to jump off into.
Definitely, yeah. It's going to be pretty cool, man. We got some good content here.
Absolutely. You got some poems you may already know, songs you may already know, and we're gonna, tell you what we think of them.
Yeah, take a peek and dissect it a little bit. See what's way down deep inside these puppies.
Dip our toes in the water, splash around a little bit, maybe dig up some of the dirt on the bed of the lake.
Well, Shane,
that kind of thing.
Did you bring your water wings? I mean, if we're gonna be splishing and splashing, we got to be doing it safely.
No, I actually just got certified as yes, I can swim. So I have flippers but no water wings. It's a big day for me.
So you keep the flippers on, and you just pedal to kind of help tread water a little bit?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I like to do that, but I'm not ready for that. I just keep my water wings on me at all times.
I don't know, man. I think you're pretty coordinated. I would say you could probably get away with it, but it does take some serious training before you're ready for that kind of immersion,
Well, man, so a couple months ago I was attempting to dive into the ocean, and clearly this is why I need the water wings. I dove straight into the sand thinking I had a decent amount of water underneath me, and when I popped up, my entire shoulder blade was sticking out of my torso. This is a true story. Yeah, and I just pulled the arm down, and the shoulder went back into place. Not in a good manner. It was not the right place. But then I was like, all right, I think I'm good. It hurts, but I mean, I'm already in the water, and it was cold. I got over my fear of the chill, dislocated my shoulder, adrenaline rush. I'm like, yeah, fuck it, man. I'm going to go see how long I can swim for. Then the adrenaline wore off and went back to the beach and was like, this really sucks.
I can't believe you popped it back into place. Like, if that happened to me, I would probably just,
scream.
Start crying. Walk over to my towel on the beach and just collapse. And
I'm done.
Yeah. Take me to the hospital.
It was like one of those instinctual things. I looked down, saw that it was so horrendously mangled, and was like, no way, and just moved it, and it just slipped right back in there, and it was not correct. Later on in the night, I was laying with my arm over my head, and it popped back out, and I'm like, oh boy, and just was like, all right, let's do this the right way. Nice, find the spot that's nice and easy, and it just slipped right in, nice and smooth, and then I just babied it for 2 months. It's almost 100% again. This was Carter, October.
Carter, maybe you keep the water wings on then. I don't want to risk your health or anything, because that doesn't.
Yeah,
doesn't help you.
I'm not trying to dislocate another shoulder in the deep archives of over contemplating literature.
Right. Well, and all of the great literary analysts.
Analysis?
Analyzers?
Analyzers.
Oh my god!
I feel like that's a piece of technology.
Anyways.
Like, do we have our analyzers equipped?
Yeah. See, analyze sequence initiated. But that's kind of like a craft rule. A trade rule. You got to stretch real well before you start doing any literary analysis.
Exactly. You didn't eat within the last 30 minutes, did you?
No, I made sure to get it all out of the way.
Good.
But yeah, I mean,
because it's just like swimming.
Right, and a dislocated shoulder is on the low end of like injuries that happen,
Exactly. Yeah, it can get a lot worse.
Torn ligaments, it's
sharks,
broken bones occasionally, an icky tummy. Sometimes you analyze some literature so hard it gets your works going.
Dude, spend the night in the bathroom throwing up.
Yep.
I know how it goes. I've been there.
Yeah.
Well, so, let's get in. Let's get in.
So on that note, let's talk about some poems. Let's talk about some poems.
What you got a little something for me? A little poetry, perhaps?
Yeah. Yeah, I do believe I do. So this first poem. Actually, you know what? Carter, I think you picked this one out. Why don't you take it away? You can't just tell me what to do. You take it away.
Don't tell me what to do. Switch up.
I don't have shit for you, man. You
so
do it.
Carter, I'm gonna go play some video games. You take care of the rest of this podcast. Just go.
Yeah.
You got it.
Thanks for having me, everybody. Carter, finishing up the night.
I'll call you back. You can do the outro.
Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting my vacation time right now, so...
Well, Shane, if you do this, you understand that you're going to be taken off of the NNP payroll. Oh,
no.
Yeah, but that's it.
Come on, man. I gotta make ends meet.
I know, but... I guess I'll do it. For you. And for our listeners, this is for you. Usually I would have given up and been like, it's over. I'm done with this podcast. I'm hanging up the towel. But tonight, it's a special night. So, let's get in there. Right. This is by a gentleman named Henry David Thoreau, I want to say. He's probably pretty thorough with his writing. Does that sound about right? Thoreau. Thoreau.
Yeah, dude, it's
Thoreau?
Henry David Thoreau. Yeah.
Thoreau. Okay, I just pronounced it a little bit different, but that's all right.
An absolute literary powerhouse in American literature.
Well, let's see what he's got. This poem is called "My Life Has Been the Poem I Would Have Writ." And I like that word "writ." It's great. You don't see that enough anymore. Mm-hmm. Or ever. Unless you're from
great word.
The Shakespeare era. All right, so it goes something like this. My life has been the poem I would have writ, but I could not both live and utter it. It's interesting. That's it.
It's a short one, yeah. I mean, it packs this really, really hard existential punch in just a few words, in two short lines.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19 words.
19 words to send you into a downward spiral of existential crisis,
contemplation
on your time management,
taxes.
Hey, real quick, listener, are you doing enough?
Yeah.
Do you? Is it sufficient?
Do you really think you're gonna make it?
Would you look into a mirror? You see something you like? Is that true? Well, think again.
Yeah.
Think again.
There's a little more going on here. I like this poem. I like this poem because it's so quick, and yes, it does pack a nice fat uppercut straight to the gut hole. just the fact of I mean, it's obviously the poem is called "My Life Has Been the Poem I Would Have Writ." But you can't do it. You can't write it and live it. So I mean, it's like the poem is pretty much just the last sentence, because you already get the other half in the title.
I also kind of like that. That poem is kind of essentially, like that one line, that last line of, "But I could not both live and utter it," which is interesting because he would have written the poem, but he didn't, and instead he wrote this, which is, it's a poem, but it's also saying I'm not gonna write a poem by writing a couple short lines that get all the meaning of a poem just right in there.
Yeah.
It's.
I feel like it's like he's sitting there and he's like essentially just saying, I mean, the poem is a is kind of like a diversion almost. It's mostly based around the fact that it's like if I was observing a life and had to retell it, this is how my life would have, this is how I would have gone about my entire life. But unfortunately I had to live it, so there's no sense in even writing the poem. Because I have more to show through my work and my life because of, how I wanted it to be. So there's no sense in even writing.
Yeah, and that's, so kind of to build off that, Carter, what if it's also kind of saying, because life is so complex and life is so ever-changing and stuff, you can't both document something and experience new things too. Like you only know what you've seen. You obviously don't know what you haven't seen. So the fact that it's always changing kind of leaves you if you're trying to write something that you don't know, you never develop, That's an interesting way to.
That's what I was trying to formulate, in a similar manner. I was seeing it like a broadcast on television, you can't just point a camera at something and it goes straight into somebody's television for news. They say it's live, but if there's a live event, there still is post-production happening as a middleman prior to getting to your TV, and that has to go to the station. It's all this stuff. It's not actually live, so you can't really live your. I'm seeing it like that. You can't live your life witnessing it and documenting it at the same time. You either live it. It's kind of like taking a video at a concert. It's you're not living in the moment. You're documenting the moment. So you can either choose between, do I want to hold on to this information to witness it later, or do I just want to experience it fully right here, right now?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really... Yeah. Here and now. I think that's something that just as people in general, we kind of shy away from too, is the whole being here and now. It's just the best way to describe it is that picture of all the kids, all the younger generation, they're hanging out, quote unquote hanging out, and they're all on their phones, something like that.
Yeah.
Where
spending too much time documenting
in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're working on documenting or seeing other people's documents of their the poem that they are writing, if we
exactly
continue off Thoreau's work.
Yeah.
Rather than just being present,
Sure.
So that's an interesting read.
They're portfolioing the swag, bro. The sauce,
yeah, exactly.
As they say nowadays, the sauce.
The sauce. You know how when I was little,
I remember.
Hey, yeah. Do you remember this personal memory from when I was little?
Hey Shane, do you remember this dream I had when I was 6?
Yes. Oh, that one dream, dude. Yes.
You remember that, probably. Dude? Oh, it was scarier.
So do you remember? And I'm sure like your mom or like maybe your grandma had them, but the chicken noodle soup for the soul kind of books.
Or, on the toilet,
all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
later or not on life, it, but like on the shelf.
When it's the younger generation writing those books, it's gonna be like I don't know, like swag for the soul or
swag for the soul. What is that even?
Swag for the soul.
Lit swag, lit sauce in your soul hole.
So Carter, keep it rolling.
Yeah, let's get risky.
Right, I got another good one here for you. It's called Risk by, and I hope I don't butcher this name, but Anais Nin.
Anais.
It goes something like this. And then the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. It's another one that has very few words, you know?
I'm getting the vibe that it's like they've had a lot of time being able to like express themselves because the poem starts and then the day came, so like an end to an era. When the risk to remain in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. So it was like it made more sense to me to just stay internal, you know, not be, you know, outgoing perhaps.
Right.
The way that you usually are, it just made more sense to stay uptight than it did to like be outward.
Yeah.
But the painful, it was more, so remaining tight was more painful.
That's what that's what the word that I keep going back to is painful.
Same, yeah.
You know, in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom.
And the risk is another part.
Right. Well, so going back to like that painful part, I think that's an interesting way to like reach your audience directly because, you know, the writer is kind of making this, you know, they're creating a meaning that, you know, there's like development in stepping outside of your boundaries and kind of like blossoming, quote unquote, you know. Not to suppose too much about the writer's intent, but like it gives it's a way to like connect when they make such a ambiguous kind of work like this, I think.
Yeah. So what I'm actually realizing now that I didn't even catch the first time we read over this, is it's when the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk. Like the risk is the reoccurring thing. And now this makes so much more sense to me because you either have the risk in one hand to be uptight and the risk to just blossom and be, you know, who you want to be. So then I'm saying, like, now in my head I'm going, all right, well, there came a day where it's like you had one of two choices to either be introverted or outroverted, kind of, or to just be yourself. You just don't, you know, there's now, because of this situation, it just makes so much more sense to be outward. It's like you got two choices, and it's going to be more painful to be, you know, uptight in your bud.
See, I think that's a pretty interesting read, that it's like an active tone of voice like that. It's happening. It's almost happening like simultaneously, or something that is in like real time. I was also just kind of like reading it over, and it almost seems like the person is looking back, and it's like hindsight, or like they're looking back in retrospect and kind of realizing why it was painful to remain tight in the bud, rather than taking the risk that it took to blossom. Like as if they had already as if maybe they had
attempted
blossomed and they were looking back at what it was like when, you know, blossoming was like the scary part. And when they were like secure in the bud.
Oh yeah.
And how they thought maybe breaking apart into like a blossom, you know, it seems like it's something you maybe would be not appealing for a bud because they're like, you know, basically exploding. Really.
Yeah.
But in the end, they become a far better, you know, aesthetic, a far better thing to look at.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, more appeasing, more. So yeah, I think that's a really good point because of the word "remain tight."
Yeah.
And then the day came when the risk to remain tight. You know, like you've been uptight. You know, but it also does past shadow. I don't know if that's even a word. The opposite of foreshadowing. The opposite of foreshadowing. We'll call it past shadowing.
No, past shadowing. Oh, it'd be a flashback, dog.
Essentially, yeah, exact. I mean, but it's not really flashing back to anything. It's just essentially saying that this thing has happened in the past.
It's a hindsight. Yeah,
a hindsight. Yeah, exactly. To remain tight in the bud.
Yeah.
As opposed to, then the risk it took to blossom. So yeah, it's almost as like they know what it takes to be blossoming, and they know how it is to be in a bud, and staying tight. So yeah, it's like they have that information. And it just really came down to some situation that was like it happened one day, and then they were like, "Shit, I gotta write a poem."
You know, this also has me thinking. What if it's kind of noting on, and this may be kind of a generic, like something you'd see written on like your high school guidance counselor's wall with a picture of a sunset behind it.
Or the dentist up on the ceiling.
Yeah, what if it's meant to be kind of like a, what's the word I'm looking here? What if it's meant to be one of those, you know, like you have to be the best person you can be. You're like you're only as good as your effort. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. Success is measured in your
yeah, right. Is measured in is not or no, what is it? Oh, dude, I feel like there's dozens of quotes that kind of note on this.
Just like
totally drawing a blank.
You're only as wise as your success or some bullshit.
As your biggest failure.
yeah. I think
it's as wise as your biggest failure.
These are just yeah, pretty much. As long as you come back from it or something.
Yeah.
I think they're like uplifting quotes. Or something.
Yeah, and this one does it in more of like an artistic way, more of a you're hanging off every word kind of way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Carter, you wanna hit me with the next one?
Yeah, I mean we both love the Arctic Monkeys. This is such a solid tune. Anything Alex Turner writes, it's just genius. He's a lyrical mastermind. So this is
absolutely
tune I Want to Be Yours. What did that come out like when we were in high school? I remember we were all jamming to that.
I want to say
senior year
2013
or 14,
2012.
Oh, 12.
No, I think it came out 2013, spring of 2013.
Yeah, I feel like it was our senior year.
Yeah, such an amazing album. That was one that I kept in my car stereo for like months at a crack. Like that entire summer after I graduated from high school, it was just Arctic Monkeys AM. That was it.
Dude,
this was definitely one of my favorite tunes on the track.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that. I did not I didn't have as much of a connection with this album as you know, all of our buddies. For some reason, I don't know why. I mean, there's tunes on. I've listened through the album, you know, handfuls of times. There's just it didn't. I don't know. Like you know, like there's so many Black Keys records that came out, and that I just couldn't stop listening to them. We all just were hell bent on always jamming out to that stuff. So I don't know. It was some. I don't know what it was about this record, but there's a couple tunes on that record that, you know, I can't get enough of, and this is definitely one of them. So it's "I Want to Be Yours," Arctic Monkeys. So let's just dive in. I want to be your vacuum cleaner, breathing in your dust. Sorry, breathing in your dust. I want to be your Ford Cantina. I will never rust. If you like your coffee hot, well, let me be your coffee pot. You call the shots, babe. I just want to be yours. Let me be your lecky meter, and I'll never run out. And let me be the portable heater that you'll get cold without. I want to be your setting lotion. I want to be. Hold your hair in deep devotion. How deep? At least as deep as the Pacific Ocean. I just want to be yours.
Carter, before we get into this one, if you know this song, you know that we left out the chorus. Carter and I we pulled a bunch of song lyrics that we wanted to talk about, and just a heads up, a lot of them we pulled the chorus out, unless it had a lot of, was like content heavy, just to kind of get to the nitty gritty of the verses.
Yeah, so the subject matter there.
Just a heads up there, but yeah, I love the way this is written. I love that it's simple. It's almost like it's almost like it's taking away those little inconveniences, you know, in a person's life, and it kind of, you know, whatever way you can show that person you care, you would. You know?
Like, let me be the keys to your car to start it up in the cold winter when you don't want to go outside to do it. Something it shows like some deep sacrificial, you know, like literally anything, that's what I'll be to be yours. You know, like, I don't care. It's very, what's the word? Selfless.
Yeah. No, and I think that's an interesting point. Like, whatever it takes, regardless of, like, how it affects you do anything to be theirs, which is a whole nother concept that I want to talk about the whole, like, theirs. But before that, you know, with the vacuum cleaner and I want to breathe in your dust, you know, it's like, I'll take the harmfulness of the dust to keep it, you know, like, away from you, kind of thing. And with the Ford Cortina, the car that will never rust.
I wonder if that's like, really a true fact.
I don't know if that's true.
It's got to have, like, people have to know about the Cortina just not really rusting or something, you know, for him to put that in.
Yeah, but it kind of notes, like, you know, cars get beat on and driven every day and through puddles and in snowbanks and whatever, and they're outside most of the time. But
or maybe that car is like, actually more prone to rusting, and he's saying, even though this is the worst car to rust, I'm not gonna.
Even though you can just beat the ever-living piss out of this car, you know, it'll stay true to you.
Exactly.
Like this, you know, this author is kind of implying.
Yeah, I really like the line, if you like your coffee hot, well, let me be your coffee pot. Like, it's gonna suck to be that pot, but I'm willing to do it for you.
Right. Or maybe that's slang for, like, doing it, you know?
Could be. It could be.
You know, coffee is just the new slang for doing it. You want some coffee?
What's up, baby? You trying to coffee down? You trying to get some coffee?
So...
But this is another thing.
Coffee.
This is another thing. He's coming off, you know, or whoever the story is about. You call the shots, babe. I just want to be yours. So it's also saying, like, you might call some shots that are just freaking stupid, like just bad calls, but it doesn't matter. You know, it's, you still get to do that because I'm not the sayer in this relationship. Like, it's on you. You say what I gotta do, and I'm doing it. You know, it's like having a lack of independence almost, which can be a very also, very toxic relationship if you don't have personal say.
Carter, I like where you're going with that too, and I also think that this person this narrator in this piece, you know, the voice in it, is almost saying, like, I take that on, and I know the risk, and I just, like, it doesn't matter as long as I can be with you, you know, like,
mm-hmm.
it's 100% giving themselves to that person.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of, like being somebody's is interesting, too, because it is, like, this ownership isn't the right word, but it's
dang close, man.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
it feels like he's a dog.
Because it's not like a property thing, but this person is... the voice in this work is almost like... you know how people can personify things? Like, you know, they say, oh, the fridge is, like, running or whatever.
It's being a bitch.
What? Yeah, something like that. You can... Both absolutely terrible examples of personification.
The fridge is a bitch. There you go.
Yeah, the fridge. Yes.
Well,
the fridge is acting quite bitchy today.
Yeah.
Or like you know.
It's more
of howling or something.
It's more of a.
Anyways,
metaphor.
This person is like doing the opposite by taking himself, a person, and creating himself as an object rather than a person, you know? He's kind of like shitting on himself, saying like, I'll be whatever you need me to be, as long as like I'm with you and you're like providing, from what I get out of it, providing like the emotional side of it, because like that's like I need you to be there, you know what I mean? Like it's just a really interesting thing.
I completely agree with that. I feel like it's a very submissive relationship, and that's why I think this could even just be about a dog.
Oh shit!
I mean, it says "babe" in it, but at the same time,
let's look at it as if it were about a dog.
Yeah.
So I want to go to the next section because I wanted to talk about this. So the next verse is. Just the first couple lines. Let me be your Lecky meter, and I'll never run out. So a Lecky meter, which I had to look this up, is like British slang for an electric meter, which, Carter and I didn't know.
It's like electricity for your house?
I think so.
Yeah.
If I'm led to believe correctly. But that's interesting because it's like you're measuring electricity or energy.
How much love do you have for the person? Kind of.
Right. And if you're a dog and you really dig your owner, you're never going to run out of Lecky.
No.
You know? Your Lecky meters, it's going to be good.
Lecky for days.
Yeah, dude. Lecky all day.
And let me be the portable heater that you'll get cold without.
Snuggles. Dude, Sugar.
Sugar
Obviously,
Shack.
This is about a dog.
It very well could be now. I want to be your setting lotion. I don't know what a setting lotion is. Maybe that's just like for tanning.
I thought it was like for your hair. Like you put...
Well, the next line is about hair.
Yeah, maybe that's what it makes me think. Because it says, let me be your setting lotion. Hold your hair in deep devotion.
Yeah, that just makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Considering that's a run-on. Like, those two sentences are one
lotion,
sentence.
Like, you know, if you have one of those big hairdos, like the mom from the Addams Family.
Yeah.
And you need to stick it up, it'll set in place.
Kind of like mousse of gel, almost. I've just never heard that talked about as lotion. That's the only
I mean, for all we know, we could be totally off, but I think that's okay.
Yeah, and then hold your hair in deep devotion, and then how deep? And they're like, bro, it's deep as shit. Deeper than the Pacific. Or at least as deep.
At least as deep as the Pacific Ocean.
That's probably my favorite line in that whole song. And the way he says it. At least as deep as the Pacific Ocean, I wanna be yours.
Such a good song.
So good, man.
Phenomenal song.
And that's deep meanings in there.
I think that it's just really it's
yeah. Dunce.
Form.
Dunce mode.
Able to get like a sense of purpose from them and a sense of like what kind of things those help with or whatever. But Carter, I have another good one for you.
What you got?
This one is called What If by Shel Silverstein, who, you know, I don't know if you guys as a kid, you listeners out there, read the Shel Silverstein Where the Sidewalk Ends or The Light in the Attic or The Giving Tree, but super awesome author.
Ugh.
Underrated poet for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on that stuff, man.
Maybe not underrated. I feel like he was pretty...
He was definitely celebrated, but also, like, I don't really know if any... there's a lot of people that got it,
It's hard to compare childhood authors, especially in that kind of light, because I feel like Shel Silverstein and Dr. Seuss almost had this similar style of, like, being wordy and in and out and kind of having really specific style. You know what I mean?
I feel like Dr. Seuss was PG. Shel Silverstein was PG-13 because Shel had some really dark poems in the in a lot of the. It was dark. I remember I was a little bit fearful, especially those animations or the little doodles on the side. They were kind of creepy.
The little doodles, yeah.
It could be very creepy.
Well,
but also
this one's not so bad.
Fabulous. It is. It's a little dark. Let's be real.
It's not as bad as some of the other ones, but anyways, This is What If by Shel Silverstein. Last night, while I lay thinking here, some what ifs crawled inside my ear, and pranced and partied all night long and sang their same old what if song. What if I'm dumb in school? What if they've closed the swimming pool? What if I get beat up? What if there's poison in my cup? What if I start to cry? What if I get sick and die? What if I flunk that test? What if green hair grows on my chest? What if nobody likes me? What if a bolt of lightning strikes me? What if I don't grow tall? What if my head starts getting smaller? What if the fish won't bite? What if the wind tears up my kite? What if they start a war? What if my parents get divorced? What if the bus is late? What if my teeth don't grow in straight? What if I tear my pants? What if I never learn to dance? Everything seems swell, and then the nighttime what ifs strike again.
That's such a jumble, man. It all rhymes. It all rhymes down the way. I just love the line where he's like, what if my head starts getting smaller? Because the line before that is, what if I don't grow tall? So you're thinking, what if my head gets really small? You know, like to keep the rhyme scheme going, but instead he chucks in a smaller, and it just like changes the format of the rhyming scheme, which is really dope. Yeah. I mean, not even getting into the depth of this. Like it's just really cool the way he puts a lot of this stuff together. And it doesn't even rhyme at the end, which I like that.
It's like a change in tempo almost when he hits that off rhyme. You know, that slant rhyme. Yeah, no, I think that's really good.
Getting real slanty.
Another thing I like is just like it kind of goes by like something harmless, something harmless, something harmless, and then something very harmful. You know, like it has a bunch of things that are kind of like trivial.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's followed up with something more, you know, serious or vital or critical, you know, like...
I think that kind of draws out a childish, you know, like, just the mind of a child, you know, like how quickly they're from jumping from, like, real-world problems to, like, small kid problems. I mean, obviously he's talking about things kids would worry about, you know, like, what if they close the swimming pool? Like, what if I don't get tall? So it's got to be a kid,
right? Or even like goofy, improbable things like, what if green hairs grow on my chest?
Yeah,
you know, like,
exactly.
Obviously, that's not gonna like happen unless that is, and maybe I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to mean something else, but you know, it's like that comes right before, or just a couple lines after. What if I get sick and die? You know, like it's. yeah, I guess it's interesting the way he kind of jumps between something really seemingly unimportant, but at the same time and following it up with something that's seems more important, almost putting them together and kind of equating them to each other to be of the same importance. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
in that mind of that child, if we're gonna suppose that it is like a child's voice in this.
Yeah, I think it's got to be.
Yeah.
What I'm kind of, my train is kind of stumbling on its rails. I had a little.
It's got to stop at the station.
It's got to pull in quick, oil up the wheels.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone's got their tickets.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ah, fuck! I can't remember. I don't know. It was a good one. It was a good thought. I'm sure it'll.
Well, let me ask you a question, and if it comes back to you,
yeah,
we can rehash it.
Oh, I think I got it.
Oh, go for it then. Take it away.
It's about what ifs. You know, like, sounds like paranoia. It sounds like this kid is either very, like, just I don't remember as a kid growing up and like having all these questions.
Yeah.
I think that might take a certain type of brain or just a certain, maybe a potential like illness. Because
or maybe like a certain level of exposure, to real world things.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, maybe a couple of these things, like, what if I get beat up? Perhaps. I mean, I feel like everybody kind of gets that. In the earlier years of or when you're newer into schools and stuff, it's a scary thought. But yeah, like, I never contemplated what if I tear my pants or what if the bus is late or any of that stuff. Just because it's like, well, if it does, it's gonna be okay. It's not gonna be the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think I think everybody at some point has that one night where, like, maybe it follows a shitty day. Maybe it follows a long conversation with somebody that you can't see eye to eye with, or maybe it follows a life-altering happening or something like that in somebody's day-to-day. But I feel like this is a conversation you have with yourself after something like that happens.
That's a good point.
Just, like, trying to, like, re-ground yourself by almost like blindly feeling out into the waters of, like, what's out there, like, what if this happened, where would I be and what would it be like,
which is great.
Were the scenario.
That's great logical thinking, to be prepared. Like, well, what am I gonna do if this happens? Having some footing in an unknown future.
Right.
I've definitely had those moments where I think you're right. It's usually after some kind of a situation where you're like, oh boy, what if this happens?
I also think it emulates that kind of scenario too, in the way that there are no answers in here. Like, it just ends with, it ends with everything seems swell, and then the nightmare what ifs strike again. Like, there's no answers in this. It's all just questions. It's all like, it puts you in unfamiliar waters, and you have to, like, create a context and or something like that gives you peace of mind. There is no answer in this. It's just like, it really embodies that feeling of like, you don't know. You have there's no way you could know until, like, you experience that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you can't be too certain. That's why it's good to. I think in obviously Shell or somebody Shell knew. Wait, this was still Shell, right? Yeah. He had to have known that. He had to have dealt with this kind of thing as, like, self-worth, situations where it's like, am I good enough? Because if you're confident in yourself, you won't be asking these questions. Most of the time, they come and they go, and sometimes you get hung up on some of those questions. But I feel like in this situation, it's really like a a sense of borderline despair, fear, kind of an area where, because it's like, oh, I thought I was doing fine, and then all of a sudden, boom, what ifs? Like it's a tidal wave of like doubt.
A heavy dose of reality.
Yeah.
Make mine a double.
Yeah, I'll take espresso.
I'll take my coffee. I'll take my coffee black, I guess.
Oh, what were you saying about coffee earlier, Shane?
What was I saying about coffee? Oh yeah, I was saying coffee is
something to do with it's the new way of saying something.
What the kids are calling doing it now.
Ah.
Yeah.
So you take it black, right?
Yeah. All
right, my friend.
Full bodied is how I take it.
Hey man, I dig it. I'm with you. Oh, that's great, man. I really like Shel Silverstein. He's an absolute mastermind genius.
He really is. I'd love to go back, and maybe that's something we can talk about more on this podcast. Is like some of his real deep cuts, or like some of his big works. He's just has so many different works, and he really is right in his stylistic. Like just sweet
his
spot.
niche. Yeah, he's right in the wheelhouse. Knows just what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, growing up, I always kind of saw him as a quiet man. I don't know anything about Shel Silverstein. I would love to watch a documentary and learn more about him. But reading his books, like The Giving Tree and Sidewalk Ends, just my envisionment for how I saw this man out and about in the world. I just figured he was just kind of like a quaint man sitting in his home, maybe in the country or something, and just sketching down exactly what came to mind, and then maybe revised it a little bit, and then just put it out.
He seemed pretty chill. Like I looked up, I was like, oh, Shel Silverstein. Looked him up, and the first picture that came up, he was lounging out underneath kind of some foliage. And was just leaning back with a guitar, kind of lazily.
No way.
Strung across his torso, and jean cuffs rolled up, barefoot, with a big ass grin on his face. He just seems
I think I do remember seeing on the back of a cover of one of his books. Is he bald?
Yeah, he's bald and has a sweet beard.
The beard, yeah. Was it white beard?
It's kind of like the salt and pepper, black on the sides, but right underneath the chin, there's a nice white strip.
Some wispage.
Yeah.
Dude, I totally remember. I just having this big cheesy smile. And that, that's
when you're creating art like that, both drawing, that visual side, and that mental, the poetry side. I gotta imagine you feel mentally great, when you're really feeling good about what you created.
Yeah,
which I think
that kind of reminds me. Of a friend I had, Brooke, back in Minnesota. Very good friend. Her and I would just sit. We would write poetry, and I would draw something, and then most of the time I would draw a photo or some weird image, and then she would see something in it, and then she would write a poem. We'll have to go through that and put some of those out, because there's some really good ones in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I totally forgot about that.
We have so many more poems, but we don't want to bog you listeners down with 3 hours of us just talking about poems, so we're going to space it out a little bit. So we have a lot more song lyrics. I think next time we're going to be talking about a Jack Johnson tune. We're going to be talking about the lyrics to Rocky Mountain High. We have a little bit of something really short by Dr. Seuss, and also some other goodies in there too. So we got a ton more, but we want to let you digest a little before we dive into that. So
yeah, so thanks for listening, guys. This has been part 1 to the poems and lyrics episode. If you guys would like, we've got all of our episodes up on Podbean, a whole bunch of funny stuff. It's kind of a little bit of a roller coaster, like the trajectory of how we've been going. Just bouncing around all sorts of different topics and subjects, and I don't know. I think we like it that way. I guess maybe at some point we'll kind of narrow down a little bit more into a little bit more focused of a tractor beam of narratives. Maybe at some point we just start doing all personal content.
Well,
far in the future.
Just to give you guys like a little look, behind the curtain, we're gonna try and do a little bit more. Theme related stuff, like, we'll do poetry for a little while and then we'll move on to something different. We'll do that for a while, and every once in a while we might throw in some goofy shit, like some more Amazon reviews, because I fucking love doing those Amazon reviews, dude. They are so funny. Tyler sent me one the other day that was funny as hell. It was for toddler ankle weights to keep your kid weighted weighted down so they stop messing around.
No more jumping off the couch.
Yeah, and the review was like, this is a terrible product. Not only does it not work very well, but you now have a toddler that has never skipped leg day and is basically
just ripped from the bottom half down.
Super ripped quads, calves, all of it, dude.
They're gonna grow up to be runners, man.
Yeah. So
that's funny. We definitely
want to do more of that.
Yeah, we'll be getting into that. Maybe even some more ad labs. It's been a while since we've done that. More deep, girthy stories that we find that are, riddled with content. But for now, I think it's probably a safe bet to wrap this puppy up. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, whatever. Email us, page us, write a letter and give it to a bird. Whatever you got to do. We want to hear from you. We really appreciate you tuning in.
Tie your note to a brick and throw it through one of our windows.
Yeah.
That's probably the quickest way to get my attention.
Yeah,
just
I'd say so.
Toss a brick through my window.
Yeah, I mean, I might be pissed, but I'll read it eventually.
Yeah, right. You'll get a response. I can assure you that.
Might be a little vulgar, but
yeah.
You'll get my attention. So anyway, let's wrap it up with kind of just the overlord of this, the oversighted theme of this beast. It goes a little something like this. It's by Roald Dahl, another kids author, but Shane and I both agreed it's got some deep meaning, and I think it's a good way to cap off these episodes. So please, oh please, we beg, we pray, go throw your TV set away, and in its place you can install a lovely bookcase on the wall.
Yeah.
So you guys can think about that.
Yeah, we'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for listening. Like Carter said, let us know what you think, or just simply enjoy it. We're gonna bring it. So we'll
regardless, we're bringing it.
Yeah, we're bringing it. Doesn't matter. Need no RSVP. We'll just show up and bring it.
Yeah, we'll be throwing bricks through your windows. Listen to this app. Here's another podcast for you.
We'll be throwing literary bricks through your figurative windows. If you can dig on that.
Have a beautiful week, guys, and we will get in tune with you soon.